What's up, friend? Hi, I'm Julie. Welcome to the Julie's Paint Party YouTube channel. I always have a hard time saying that for some reason. Anyways, I believe that we can all learn how to paint without breaking the bank. I teach you how to make beautiful paintings just using simple supplies from the dollar store. So it's not something that you really have to throw down on, and it can make you feel so good. It's a huge ROI on energy, happiness, and contentment. And also creativity and just overall well-being. So, sounds pretty good, right? Anyways, today I want to keep it really simple. I'm going to show you how to make a really, really simple Northern Lights painting. I have this cute little 8x10 black canvas that I'm working on today, and just a few colors. I'll show you what I have going on behind my face here. So I have some blue and black, and I also have some white, turquoise, and pink. I get these all at Dollarama. And you can pick up any craft store paints you want from any store that is near you. But I'm telling you, the dollar store for sure has the best deals. Now for brushes today, you know what? I'm just going to I call this my holy trifecta of brushes. So I have my big Fatty McFatterson flathead brush, I have my 1/2-inch flathead brush, and I also have my long liner brush. And I'll use a variation of those. We'll see. I'm kind of going to wing it today. I also have my old dirty toothbrush that I'm going to make some stars with, and a napkin and a paper plate and some water. And that is all we need to get this party started. Now, if you want to add any other colors into the mix, you totally can. Yellow is a beautiful highlight color. Purple is a really beautiful Northern Light color as well. So honestly, we're just going to have fun with it and make it easy and simple and totally worth it. So go grab your supplies and I'll see you soon. Perfect. So we're going to get our paints on our plate. And I just want to give you a quick reminder. I love teaching painting. It's lights me up like nothing ever has besides my kids in my life. It's my favoriteest thing to do. So if you're ever looking for something to do with a group of friends, maybe you're scattered around the world and you can't be with each other in person, hosting virtual parties is something that I love to do for friends who can't be with each other, but we can all be online together having a shared experience with painting. So if that's something that you can do with your friends, your family, team building, if your workmates are also scattered, this is a great way for you guys to bond through the internet together, having a beautiful painting experience. So you can find out any of those details on my website, juliespaintparty.com, and I'm just going to leave that there. Now, let's get this started. I'm going to go ahead and put all the colors on my canvas except for black. So I got a little turquoise, and just remember, we're painting at home. So I'm just using the endsies of my bottles. We don't have to overload our plates. We can always add more paint into the mix. Sometimes my paints get old and they have goobers in them, and honestly, it does not bother me at all. Got some white, so I got blue, pink, turquoise, and white on my plate. I'm going to save the black for later. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use a mixture of these colors and make some beautiful designs in the sky. So I'm going to actually grab my big brush, but the small brush would work perfectly fine, your smaller flathead brush for this. And I'm going to start with my dark blue here. Now I'm going to put some trees down at the bottom in front of my Northern Lights, and I want them to show up. So I'm actually going to use most of my canvas for the actual lights themselves, and just having fun with it. Starting at one side of my painting, I'm going to start to kind of make some little designs. So I'm going to pull up and down and back up. And I want to work when my paint is wet so that I can make some nice blends happening. Now, Northern Lights happen in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes they we can make them flutter through the sky if you want to give them a little twist. instead. That's kind of a cool way to do it, kind of like little S's upwards. You start at one side and kind of make these S shapes up towards the top and up towards the corner and even up towards the side over here. And I'm going to start to kind of interweave some of the other colors. So let's grab some turquoise and just start following those same patterns back and forth. Along with each other. Now it doesn't have to be so outlined, so I just basically outlined my blue. What we can do to alleviate that is take some of that turquoise and pop it down the middle of some of these blue pieces, and also just have it on its own over here as well, wherever you want to put it. Again, I'm going to continue adding some color, so I'm going to grab some pink. And a little bit of white too, just to kind of start having different color variations in there. Now, the more I bring my brush back and forth or up and down, the more my colors are going to look smoother and blend together. Now, you have to be a little bit careful while you're blending your colors, because if you blend them too much, you're just going to turn it into one brand new color, right? We don't want that. We want to see all the beautiful colors. But there's these spots in between the colors where if we go back and forth a few times, we have these beautiful gradients of color that happen and create these brand new colors, and it's really pretty. But if you find, you went in and you overmixed and you have these one color to rule them all, just let it dry for a minute and then grab your other colors and you can pop right back over top of them and bring them back to life. Back to life, back to reality. See, isn't that so pretty? It's already looking, on this tiny little canvas, we can do so much. And I'm going to bring it all the way over to this side over here. So the reason I'm doing that is because, I just grabbed a bunch of white, so obviously that's going to be way brighter than the rest of them. But I want to put a little tree line down at the bottom, but the trees aren't going to show up on my black trees aren't going to show up on my black canvas if I don't have any color in front of them. So I just want to bring this down almost to the bottom. And I'm just taking little bits of paint at a time and kind of popping back and forth, just shuffling my brush back and forth. One thing I love to try and avoid, not all the time, but for stuff like this, is my dry edges. So you can see, like, sometimes the paint doesn't fill in all those little canvas crevices. You can see a little bit of dryness up there. I really want my Northern Lights to feel seamless. So I'll take a little extra paint and just pop in those areas to make sure my brush strokes are smooth instead of fuzzy. If you're having a hard time with it, a little water on your brush before you grab your paint will work. But because we're using such, what's the word I'm looking for? Like transparent colors, sometimes the water will just make it too clear and we won't see these colors popping out. So you can see I'm kind of taking my time now. I put all these beautiful colors on the canvas and I'm just very gently taking my brush up and down, back and forth, and rocking in little brush strokes to fill in any gaps that might have been not filled in or needed a little bit of extra loving. Now, what I love about these kind of northerny space scenes is that we still have the black sky in behind, and we need to get some stars on our canvas. So what I'm going to do, actually, just before I do that, I'm going to just fill in this last little bit of space down here. Make sure I can see my trees. And we might have to bring some more color over top after we do this, but I want to add some stars in. So once you feel satisfied, I don't want you to work on this for too long. Just get a little base of color down so that we can pop some stars over top. And then if we need to add a little more color after, we can, okay? So finish up the background and then grab your toothbrush. Amazing. So we need some starry stars in our sky. And I love using a toothbrush for this reason. Focus, there's my toothbrush. So what I do, I grab my toothbrush and I'm just gonna add a little water to it. I'm gonna grab my, fill that whole bristle full of paint, white paint. And on the side of my plate, I kind of give it like a brush, like a because I don't want it to be like crazy amounts of paint in there. I want to just kind of do a little spray. And how I do it, you can use two hands, but I like to just use one hand. I flip my canvas up because I don't want it to spray all over. I point my brush directly at the canvas. So I'm like this. The top of my brush is pointed at the canvas. I take my index finger and I start to pull backwards. Okay. And it makes all sorts of galaxy stars in the background. Now I'd like to fill in some of these black holes a little bit more. All right. And you can get really defined with it if you want to actually make like galaxies of stars up the middle. You can really really rifle in one area, really concentrate in certain spots. And that's it. So we have some nice stars on there. And I'm just going to let that dry for just a minute and see if I can bring any more color to the foreground before we add our trees on. Okie dokie, friend. So I'm just gonna grab a fresh brush. I'm gonna grab my smaller brush, and in the spots on my canvas that I feel like might be a little duller than I want them to be, I'm just gonna grab little bits of color at a time and color over top. So for example, I feel like my turquoise looks great, but my pink's a little lost. So I'm gonna grab a little pink and just start kind of giving it a little bit of a second, just a little bit of paint at a time. I don't want to overload it. I don't want to like take over everything. But you can see pretty clearly, like pretty quickly that it really like pops that second little coat of paint there, right? And this is gonna be cool because it kind of brings some stars in and out of your northern lights. So you're bringing some of these stars on top, and then you're bringing some of the lights on top of the stars. All right, so I'm just gonna pick and choose a few spots. I'm not gonna cover up the whole thing, just a few little spots where the colors are weaving in and out of my stars. A little bit more down here too. adding a little white highlight every once in a while. So just moving along. Every so often I'll grab a tiny corner of white and mix it in with my paint, and it just gives you enough little difference in the variations of color, and it really brightens it up just enough to kind of make it that little, give it that little extra touch of magic. Okay, I think I'm good here. All right, so I just want you to finish up. Take that second look, see if there's any other colors you want to throw down in there. Just make sure that your paint is like low enough towards the bottom so that we can add a little bit of trees down at the bottom down here. And that's it. I think you're doing amazing. Fantastic, friends. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some black paint. Finally, I put the black on there. And it's funny because we can really, there's a lot that we can do down in the bottom part of our painting. We could make peaked mountains that are way off in the distance. Excuse me. We can also make little forests of trees that are smaller over in the distance. We can also bring the trees really close to us so that we're like immersed in the trees and looking up. So there's a lot of different ways that we can do this. And I'm going to experiment with a couple of them, okay? So my idea is that I'm going to make a little hill over here that's going to be in the distance. And then I'm also going to bring a tree or two up so that it's a little closer. And I'm going to use my bigger brush for this. So I got it nice and clean. I'm going to grab some of my black. And I'm going to start down here and just kind of make a little hill that kind of drops off. And this is going to be in the background. So this is all going to get covered up with black. These are all silhouetted trees. But because I brought my color down far enough, you can see where that black line is. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more of a steepness there. And you could do two hills. You could totally make another, however you want to make your ground, you can totally make it however you want it. All right, so now our colors are coming out of the mountains, but because I want it to look like there's some little trees in the background, what I'm gonna do is when I'm pulling, I'm gonna fill my brush up a little bit, so I just have a little bit of black on there, but before I go to my canvas, I'm gonna pop straight on. So I want my bristles to kind of separate a little bit. So I'll show you the difference. When I'm pulling my brush to get the paint on, you can see my bristles are really tight together. They're nice and thin and there's not a lot of separation. Whereas when I tap on my palette, it starts to separate my bristles a little bit. So there's more separation at the top here. You can see them, they're starting to kind of move away from each other. And that's what I'm looking for to make these trees. Because what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my brush straight on the canvas and I'm just gonna do tiny little flicks upward. Flick, 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 flick. So all these little trees are way off in the distance. And you can do it until you can't see them anymore. So they're nice and fuzzy down there. Now, if you want to get a little more detailed, you can grab your liner brush and every once in a while, I'll take I don't want that much paint on there, but I'll just take the little corner of my brush and kind of give the trees a little wiggle to make it look like there's some pines in there so that it's not just like the tops of the trees. There's actual trees happening throughout the landscape. So I'll make just a few little diagonal little zigzags. It's subtle, but it makes a difference. So I'm just dragging my brush back and forth. I just kind of give my brush a little wiggle every once in a while and add a little more girth to my trees on my mountain there. And you can use that all the way across if you want. As the landscape gets closer, the trees get bigger. So if we are actually, if that's way off in the distance and we're sitting all the way over here and we have some trees, what we can do is just grab, I'm going to flatten my brush again. So I have my medium flathead brush. I'm going to flatten my brush with the black. And I'm going to start with my brush directly on the canvas. So the whole brush is on the canvas. And as I pull up, I'm going to lean back and let my last little bristle kind of fling up off the canvas. So check this out. I'm going to start at the bottom. My whole brush is on there. I'm going to pull up, 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 up. And I'm kind of dragging the back of my brush upwards. And I'm going to fling and have a nice little point at the top. And then I'm going to just start with the little corner of my brush. I'm going to make little taps at the top. So make little tappies. And do like a little zigzag at first. Now, the more I tap, the more the bristles on my brush will separate. And the bigger my bows will get. I'm just going to put this down for a second. And I'm just going to kind of go rock my brush back and forth while I'm tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. It's all going to be black down here. There we go. So you have all these trees off in the distance back here. You have this beautiful tree kind of closer to you. And you have all these beautiful northern lights in the sky. Simple, effective, very nice. And I hope you can use this to your benefit. Now, last but not least, because there's so much brightness in the sky, if you did, as an extra bonus, if you want to add more detail, just adding a little highlight into your landscape goes a long way. So grabbing that brush and taking just a little white, you can even use like turquoise, maybe a little mix of turquoise and white. Any colors that are in the sky will work to add a little highlight to the tops of your trees. So the lights are over on this side. The light's going to kind of kiss the tops of the boughs. So I'm just going to gently just push a little brightness on the tops of my tree branches here. And that will help them stand out a little bit. Now, I don't want to cover up the whole tree or anything, but it's nice to have a little highlight on there. You could even, you can toss some pink. And it'll help your branches show up a little bit better in the glow of the moonlight or of the northern light. You can experiment with doing that down at the bottom as well. Like if you want to, add a few little scrapes of color in there, can really kind of give a little vibe that the trees are nice and glowy down out in the distance. But again, I'm going to leave that up to you. And I'm just going to say thanks for hanging out. I hope you learned something today, or I hope this gave you just like a nice little break from reality to dream about how amazing it would actually be to experience the Northern Lights, because I one time saw them a really long time ago, but it was very, very subtle. And I know a lot of people around my area have been seeing them lately. There's been a lot of solar flares and stuff. So you never know. Maybe one day. But for now, I will dream to see big, beautiful northern lights in the sky. And I hope that you do too. Take a little bit of that magic with you today and sprinkle it about. I'll see you next time. Bye.